But this card's actually pretty good. But I'll tell you what wasn't pretty good, and what I want to talk about today, because I spent time watching this piece of shit. I'm going to get some content out of it. Halle Berry's Bruised. A masterclass in appreciation of Rocky. It's just watching this film made me realize how good Rocky is. Now, Rocky is a masterpiece, and I did think about doing like a full history episode on Rocky, the making of Rocky, and then like talking, academic assessments of Rocky. But Rocky is, if you have a wife or girlfriend who's never seen Rocky and doesn't give a shit about combat sports, it's a hard sell, because you're going like, no, it's a film about people. It's a film about poverty. It's one of the all-time great screenplays that they give you in like film school to look at, because every character's built up quick without like shit tier exposition. They've all got their own little arcs, and all of them are very flawed people. But it comes out at the end, and you go, "Oh, what a great film!" The boxing in it is shit. However, in Halle Berry's Bruised, and there's going to be a couple of shockers in this review, I think one of the saving graces is the actual fighting, and I think that generally the film is pretty bad. I think either my expectations got lower as the film went on, or it started very weak and got better. I think it wasn't helped by immediately shoehorning in this kid. She's Jackie Justice. Have a laugh about that. Get over it. I'm going to say it a lot, but fucking hell, who leaves that in the final draft of the script? Jackie Justice is a disgraced MMA fighter. She was at one point in the UFC, but in her one UFC fight, and they show it from the first person, she gets beat up and she jumps up and climbs out of the cage, which, I have never seen it happen, but pretty cool way to have your character be disgraced. Because in MMA, it's quite hard to actually disgrace yourself. Like, aside from Matt Serra's brother refusing to come out of the butt scoot, you could pretty much get away with whatever, and people would just go, "Oh yeah, he was an MMA fighter at one point." People fondly remember Bob Schreiber, who was, his name is Filthy Bob Schreiber, but he was a filthy cheat, and people love talking about Bob Schreiber. Taught Stefan Struve and Alistair Black, or Malachi Black as he is now, the pro wrestler. Who, if you've never seen him, awesome wheel kicks in a pro wrestling context. It's really impressive that he does them, lands them, and doesn't seriously hurt people on the regular. But anyway, Jackie Justice, returning to that, is a disgraced MMA fighter. She climbed out the cage. You have these shots of her like sitting outside is it a bodega? We'd call it a corner shop in the UK. And they don't have chairs outside them. But then someone comes up and goes, "Yo, it's Jackie Justice, man. You got disgraced," and starts filming her. And I don't think people actually do that. But she's working as like a cleaner or a maid or no, I think cleaner's probably a better word, for like rich families. She's changing in a back room, and like the kid of the family is filming her in like a really theatrical way that I don't think would ever happen. Like, he just walks into the room and has his hand like out straight so that you can see the phone of him filming it. Like, no, he would be hiding behind the door filming that. But she's like, "Are you filming me again?" And she hits an Osotogari and then throws his phone on the floor and stamps on it a few times. Cut to the next, or the evening or the next day, or whatever. She's lost the job, obviously. And her boyfriend and manager, whose name in the film is, hold on, Desi, played by Adan Kanto, best known for his role as Sunspot in X-Men Days of Future Past, which I haven't watched. He is a Gordon Ryan type figure. If you watch this film, you'll be like, "Oh man, it's Gordon Ryan." But he plays the manager of Jackie Justice and boyfriend. They fucking. And when she tells him about this, he goes, "Was that necessary?" And she says it was super necessary. And at that point, my balls shriveled up inside me, and I died slowly from the inside, and I turned the film off. And then I came back to it later and tried to finish watching it. He goes to some club, underground fight club, to look at this new fighter called like She-Wolf or something. Hold on. What's the name? They've all got fucking stupid names. Werewolf. And Werewolf is played by Gabby Garcia. Gabby Garcia, who, had a hard time being taken seriously because she was the best grappler in the world at her weight, but there was no one even close to her weight. She took a lot of drugs, but she was already a giantess. And there are tons of male fighters who took just as many drugs as her, and they don't get shot on in anywhere near the same way. Allegedly. Oh, no, did she get caught? Tentatively say allegedly. But, there was that whole period where she lost a load of weight, looked good, was, being groomed by Rising to be a star, and, that sort of went down the tubes. But, this, at the fight club, Werewolf beats up someone, and they say, oh, Jackie Justice, you should fight her. And Jackie Justice goes, well, that's a man. And you're like, well, doesn't that just undo everything that Gabby Garcia has been trying to do about her representation? But never mind. They do fight Gabby. Gabby beats her up briefly, and then Jackie Justice takes her down, mounts her, gets on top, and headbutts her into a pulp, which is quite cool. You don't see enough headbutts in films. But I think she does a dope-ass judo throw or like a flying sweep or something. I can't remember how she gets it there. But it's weird because like a lot of that fight seems to be like her striking, and then later in the film they're like, you're a grappler. Don't try and strike. But anyway, Werewolf was going to be signed to... Immaculate comes over. And Immaculate is Shannon Knapp. Shannon Knapp is the very ordinary-looking woman in her 40s or 50s who owns Invicta or runs Invicta. But for this film, the owner of Invicta is, I suppose you'd say a very drippy guy nowadays. But a black dude in a big fur coat with like leather gloves on that match the colour of the coat, and it's all red or pink or whatever, I can't remember he was wearing. And he claps like he holds one hand up facing down, and then he holds the other hand over it facing down and taps the back of his hand like that. And he does that about 4 times in the film, and it really got on my tits. But Immaculate, he comes in and he goes, well, she was about to fight for Invicta. Now you've got to fight for Invicta. And she goes, oh, no. And he says, go and see Budokai, my trainer. And she turns up, and you're expecting an Asian dude, Mr. Miyagi. And it turns out it's some lass from Hackney. And she's like a meditatey person. But yeah, then there's some training scenes. It's really bad. Halle Berry throws up in all the training and stuff. Oh, fuck, I forgot to do the crux of the film. I've been saying that Rocky is a great film because it's a poverty story and not a boxing story. The poverty story of this film is that Halle Berry's Jackie Justice's mum, turns up and goes, see that boy over there? That's your son. Which I thought they were going to do straight face a you didn't know you had a kid movie, but with a woman. And I thought that's just the best idea for a movie ever. Do you not remember giving birth? But no, in fact, she did give birth and, put this child up for adoption. Oh no, she left the child with the father. And then the father died, and then the child comes to her. So through this whole film, the child is sort of ignored and then comes center stage for little bits where she says cringe things like, you're little and I'm big, big protects little. That's the whole of that for the film until the end when she says, you did it, little helped big, or whatever it was. It was awful. But that's the reason she has to take this fight for $10,000 or whatever it is. It's a title shot against the Invicta champion, Lady Killer, whose actual name in the film is Lucia Chavez. I don't know why they made Valentina Shevchenko Argentinian, but they did. She probably said, I want to wear a weird wig. And they were like, yeah, cool, go for it. Because I think she's a redhead in this. I don't know how that makes her any more Argentinian. But anyway, the whole thing is just a mashup of weird decisions. Jackie's life's a mess. She's getting close to the time to fight. And she shags her coach, which was... There are 2 things that this film portrays about women's MMA very well. One is that Immaculate reveals that, he loses his temper at her for missing training, and he reveals that she's only been brought in as a can to make the champion look good, which is hilarious when you slapped the real Invicta name on it. And Invicta literally did that with Michelle Waterson when they brought in a 47-year-old Japanese woman to lose to her in Michelle Waterson's most effective striking performance to date. But the second part they got right about women's MMA is that the coach ends up shagging the fighter. So in this instance, the coach is a woman named, her name's not actually Budokan. Her name is Bobby, but they end up shagging, and then Bobby falls off the wagon and becomes an alcoholic again. There's not a lot of upbeatness to this movie. But then, Rocky didn't have a whole lot of upbeatness, and that was still a great movie. So Immaculate reveals that she's actually being bussed in as a bum to lose. And the whole time, Bobby Budokan is going, "You're a grappler, you've got to get her to the ground." Now, I'm losing track of what happened for the rest of this film, but the important point is that she breaks up with Desi, the Gordon Ryan chap. She goes to the title fight, and here's the kicker that you weren't expecting. The highlight of this film is Valentina Shevchenko's stunt acting. Genuinely, she carried Halle Berry to an okay fight scene. I was actually genuinely impressed because I know how hard it is to make stuff look good on film. I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Donnie Yen, all that stuff, and Tony Jaa. It is an art making things look good on film. Watch an episode of SmackDown, and if the camera angle changes when someone's doing something, you'll realize they're coming nowhere close. So in a movie, it's about knowing where the cameras are, how you're doing, how things are going to look from those particular perspectives, and then building the fight scene around there, where you'll look like you're hitting the person really hard, and you're not. And she did that really well with a 55-year-old Halle Berry who doesn't do any martial arts and had no idea what she was doing. She made it look like Halle Berry actually did know what she was doing. They're flowing through all these ground positions, sit-outs, coming up behind each other and stuff. And, Valentina's kicks look real, and they're actually... she's coming closer on a lot of these strikes than she does in her actual fights. But, no, genuinely, I was quite impressed by Halle Berry. I wasn't impressed by Halle Berry's MMA. By Valentina Shevchenko. She really did carry the last 15 minutes of this movie, 20 minutes of this movie. I would say one of the things that is just crazy that you always remember whenever you see like an actress or an actor in person or someone who's been on the big screen. When you meet them in person, one, they're always smaller than you imagine because you've seen them on a big screen. Two, movie people are so much more attractive than regular attractive people. Because Valentina Shevchenko, not the best looking fighter in the UFC, but people, she's all right, but stood next to Halle Berry, who is 55 and looks incredible for it. You're just like, wow, one of these people is clearly a movie star. And you get that sort of sense with everyone else in the movie. They're not as attractive as Halle Berry. You're like, well, yeah, okay. One of these people is working at a much higher pay grade than the rest of them. You do get a bit of Halle Berry booby in this movie and a bit of Bobby Budokan booby in this movie. They have a little sex scene. Doesn't really save the movie, but, if you're into that. When was the last time we saw a Monsters Ball? When she won an Oscar, and then you watch this and you're like, how did you win an Oscar? But then it's like, Al Pacino. Your skills do fade with age unless you're Daniel Day-Lewis. Or Robert De Niro, as Doug Stanhope said, he used to be in films, or good films. And then the other thing that was hilarious about it, that Invicta signed off on, looking like they feed their champions bums, which they have in the past. But then they also had Judy Kedzie and Eve Edwards as the commentators on the show, and Judy Kedzie does the matchmaking for Invicta. So pretty funny, but never mind. Don't watch this film. It's absolute shite. Go and watch Rocky again and make your other half watch it. So that is my review of Bruised. I should probably give it a score. It wasn't 1 out of 10 bad. It wasn't ironically enjoyable. It did pick up towards the end. I was slightly... It's the best thing I've seen Valentina Shevchenko do. And they paid Gabby Garcia, and she struggles to get fights. So, net, was it a good... Oh, no, they got Kat Zingano to turn down a fight to be in the film, and then they fired her from the UFC for that, and then they didn't want her in the film because she wasn't in the UFC. So, it hasn't been a net good. It's a net evil. Do not watch. Bad.